Go 2, 3, hit it. Welcome to SecurityGuyTV.com and Security Guy Radio, the old name, at Infuse 2017 Las Vegas. What's your name, sir?
Very good. Hi, I'm Dean Kuhlmann.
Put your mic up front up here for me.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dean Kuhlmann.
And what's the name of your company?
Brainspace Corporation.
What do you guys do?
We are a software company. We manufacture software that really specializes on dynamic learning of unstructured text.
Oh, I love this. This is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's before artificial intelligence, because you have to learn it first, right?
Actually, it crosses over. So there's a machine learning aspect of it, which we call a brain.
Okay.
And there's also the artificial intelligence component of that. So artificial intelligence typically refers to programming, right? Writing code to develop scenarios that you can predict. In our world, it's dynamic. It learns itself. So machine learning, we don't have to program it. We don't have to tell it what to do.
Right.
It figures out what is in massive amounts of unstructured data.
Now you said text. I mean, there's kind of machine learning in video analytics, right?
True.
They know it's a brown car. They know it's maybe a Taurus or whatever.
Yeah.
So tell me about the text part of it, because a hard drive, ones and zeros, mostly text.
Yeah.
Graphics are a huge part of a machine now, but really the information's in the text. So how does it differentiate between other stuff that learns kind of everything on the box? You're getting down into the code, I guess.
Now, perfect question. So I'll answer two ways. One, core technology. So our core technology is machine learning, all right? It starts to understand unique information as it compares to other patterns and other components around it. So in the world of words, it ends up being context. So if I'm trying to understand what a handicap is, okay, well, it depends on the context, right?
Right.
Handicap might have medical connotations. It might refer to a handicap ramp, or it may be a prosthetic. But if you interject golf material, handicap just took a different turn of what the meaning is. So the software itself understands the meaning of words around that. So your question around the core technology is really based upon our understanding of what is in context with what it's looking for. Now, the second part of the question is, from an application perspective, although our core technology could do a lot of different things, we have focused it in our application that we call Brainspace Discovery on textual content.
Is there a context behind that as well?
Absolutely. So
I can find the word kill, but that might mean terrorism, and also might mean, that's a killer app and that's really good, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly what we do. So in the world of forensics and people who really spend a lot of time in front of technology trying to find things out, we're sort of conditioned to hunt and peck, right? We sit at the keyboard, we type a few words, we all call it keyword searching. It's accepted, it's part of the software, it's part of everything else. But stop for a second and think of how silly that can become. I have no idea what I'm looking for. It's an investigation.
You're right.
But here are the 20 words that I'm going to use.
Yeah. And what if you're not using,
I don't even know if they're in there, right?
If you're not using word 21, you've missed it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we go through this experience of saying, oh, it really wasn't 20, it was really 30, because I learned 10 along the way. But why don't you use technology that says, oh, here's what you're looking for, but perhaps these are the other suggestive terms that I found in these 42 million documents that you're never going to be able to read, but I can tell you with absolute certainty that this word has meaning to these other 10 words in context.
Now, do you pull in Roget's Thesaurus to help us out with that? I mean, how do you come up with that?
That's the secret. Our software and our core technology.
That's a proprietary. You're not going to tell me about it.
It is proprietary.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Well, and the point is, no ontologies. So ontologies, thesauruses, synonym files. There's no training involved with our brain. That's why we call it a brain. It starts out ignorant, and if I put 10 million records into the brain, it becomes very smart on those 10 million documents. It doesn't know anything else about dictionary terms or anything else. It just learned context and similarity based upon the words that you fed it. So if you have 10 different investigations, they can be about 10 completely separate things. I don't have to teach it or load a medical journal or anything else.
But there might be a thread between those 10 separate investigations.
Absolutely.
This is the trick, right? So there's a famous case back in the day when I was a cop. Orange County Sheriff got shot by a guy that stopped on a motorcycle. And they had the old-fashioned investigations. It wasn't working out. So they brought in a case called Magic software back in the day, which is basically, before Google could do their searches, they could do it on a box. And they put all the data in there, and then they started doing some, searches, and they had a big meeting one day, and the guy pushed the button and said, this is your suspect right here. And the sheriff investigator, the head guy, says, no, I don't think that's possible, blah, blah, blah. I think we never interviewed that guy, or we cleared that guy, and the guy says to the investigator, who interviewed that guy in the FI card? And the software guy said, you did. but he forgot about it.
Sure he did.
He forgot about it 5 years earlier. That guy had a motorcycle and he had a car, and he turned out that was the arrest they made. And they never would have found that unless they had this sort of technology back then. And now, I mean, it's even better. Now, that case might have been related to 5 other cases with a guy on a motorcycle that matched all the descriptions. And back in the day, unless you were a super good detective,
right?
You know, now you can't do it because it's too voluminous.
That's exactly
Everything's
right.
too voluminous. So
you're spot on.
Can this stuff string together and say, you know what, you might have some matches in these 5 different cases based on what I think the computer thinks about what's going on?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
That's the
amazing.
power of the software.
Yeah.
So you can keep it in isolation if you want, but you can learn on other components. The other thing that's interesting, sort of a play on that, is we build a brain on top of something. It's an index, right, or it's a set of data. You go out and do a collection on 42 custodians, we can load all that data. But next year, I go off and I do 2 custodians. If I build a brain on 2 custodians worth of data, it's not a lot of data.
Right.
Right? But it's all the same stuff as the case I did last year with 42 custodians. So how come I can take the knowledge from the brain on the 42 case
right,
matter, or 42 custodian matter, and apply it to the 2 without, and add that inference of knowledge.
So I was a black hat last year, and I talked about 42 companies. Oh my God, I mean, these guys are all brainiacs, right? PhDs and so on. One question I had was, you all have individual brilliant products. A lot of your stuff goes to the cloud. You may have the same client, but you're not gonna tell each other that, and that's fair, I get that part. But is anybody behind the scenes saying, you know, let's have an agnostic database that we put information about non-specific, non-identifiable information that, you know what, if we compared all 42 companies, maybe we got one bad guy crossing all these companies' platforms, one hacker, you know, something like that. And then some people collect data sets that are unique and different because it's in the terrorism space. You might have a data set for forensic investigations, but all the data sets together might be, wow, that's the answer to everything. So you guys do something like that. Let's start with like between your own clients. So your own clients don't see each other's data, obviously, but you know in the background that, wow, this suspect here in client 1 is also in client number 6's investigation. And just as a private eye for 30 years, I've come across that 3 times in my career. Separate clients have hired me and say, I investigated that guy 5 years ago.
Right.
One guy investigated 10 years ago, right? So are you doing work like that to kind of get that data correlated between other platforms?
So I would say we as a software company are not. We're developing software and our clients are buying the software and using it worldwide for investigations. Now, having said that, all 4 of the big 4 have purchased our software, rolled it out globally as a forensics tool.
Turn it a little bit this way. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay. So our clients have installed our software worldwide in offices all over the globe.
So your stuff's not going up to a cloud. Some vendors, it goes up to the cloud and it's done up there, but yours is on the local drive. We position the software to be sold and installed behind the firewall for the client, but they could put it in their cloud or they can manage it the way they want, but now, we're not hosting it. What's your business philosophy on that? You know, back in the day, the cloud was hierarchy storage management, and my grandfather helped install computers at Disney, and it probably couldn't even run Frogger, but it was a room full of computers, right?
Yeah.
And now we call it the cloud, but that's been around a long time. But terminals were dumb back then.
Yeah.
The secretary couldn't do anything to the computer in the big closet down there. Yeah. What's your philosophy on putting it with the client or on the cloud? Some people say, no, it's cloud because that's where it is, that's where it's going to be. I kind of think the local server, the local company's safer in a way. I don't know. I'm on the wall with that. What do you think?
Well, in this space, it's all highly sensitive data.
Right. Proprietary to that investigation. Right?
That's right. And we're specifically involved in investigating, say, a Fortune 20 company CEO.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is highly suspect data.
Right.
You don't even want your own internal legal department to know what's in that data.
Exactly right.
So the last thing you want to do is to give it to the vendor down the street to put it in his cloud or whatever, right? So you're dealing with highly sensitive information. But having said that, everybody knows too, you heard Patrick's talk this morning talking about internal issues, right? The threat is internal.
It's most internal.
So
yeah, most of the time.
So there's this wave of period of time right now we're going through where the cloud is being accepted more and more and more, and I think all that's going to change over time. Yeah. I think everything's moving to the cloud, everything's moving to a data center. We're owned part by a company called Sixtera, and the whole effort is based around a very secure data center environment. So if you're going to put your data center in a cloud, effectively a data center,
that's right.
You have to have security around all of that.
Yeah.
So similar theme to what Patrick talked about again this morning. It's endpoints used to be. We used to buy firewalls. That's how we protected ourselves. Right. Today, it's got to be software-defined perimeter. It's got to be a method that's agile with the current marketplace, because you've got to be able to get in and out and let your employees work from home.
And there's so many endpoints, because you got bring your own device, and everybody has that. And then I find these companies have really good software like yourselves, and they don't think about the endpoint problem. And you know, the guy's on his cell phone at home with a VPN going, oh, let me look at everything.
That's right.
And then he's playing, you know, Pac-Man over here, and it's all connected. And the guys don't get it. I think the CISOs get it. But translating that down to the desktop guy to understand, it's a lot to get your head around. I've had a computer since 1984, so I get it. And if I could write code, I'd be in jail in 5 minutes. I'd be dangerous, right? Yeah. But I know it can be done.
Right.
And sometimes the vision is to get your buyer to understand, you know what, you don't need to understand how it works, because you're never going to get that. But you got to understand that the concept is value, and it's going to benefit the company in the long run. If you can get that to them, because you know, people my age are CEOs, and they don't know what a PSI in your golf cart tires or an ISP is. They don't know the difference, right?
That's right.
So it's fascinating to come to these shows. So give us your website and how we get a hold of you.
Brainspace.com.
I love the name. It's a great name.
Great, and thank you, and it kind of speaks to what we do.
And your name again?
Dean Kuhlmann.
Dean Kuhlmann. Thanks for coming on Security Guy
You
TV.
bet.
Very good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, we're out. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Iran? Okay, we're back with Brainspace. We did a great show. Now we're doing a better show, right?
Okay.
Because what I forgot to ask you about, I'll turn my Security Guy radio badge on here, were the cops, right? So here's how typical cops do an investigation. Something happens, and they go, I think this is what happened. Now I'm going to go find that stuff and prove it. So we called it bootstrapping.
Yeah.
You're putting the fact to the conclusion first, then finding evidence to prove it. Not a bad method when it works, right? And then sometimes people get innocently convicted for that, unfortunately, right? Most of the time not. I was a cop, so I'm razzing you guys, right? But let's talk about who uses your software. I'm sure you got the cop side of it, and then you have some corporate. Who does a better job of figuring out a case? Do cops use that old-fashioned methodology and say, these keywords aren't here, so there must not be a case?
I would say mostly people using our software are people doing investigations more on the civil side.
Okay, all right.
A little less criminal, although our software is directly
Sure.
Applicable in the criminal society. But you know, the keyword analogy is exactly that, right? So you mentioned a cop who has a thought around what something happened, but then ultimately they try to prove out what they were thinking actually happened.
Right.
And at the end of the day, they were wrong all to begin with, because part of the reasons we get involved are people are doing an investigation. By the sheer nature of the term, I don't know what I'm looking for. So why don't we, rather than just live or die on 42 keywords,
Right.
why don't we figure out what is really in the data set? So rather than just do a 42-week search and hunt and peck, why don't we let the software tell me what's in there? It's going to tell me all kinds of things that I never would have thought about. And so it's very analogous to what you just said, where the cop is looking for something to prove,
Right.
whereas you know the right approach is to follow the facts.
Now, do the private sector guys get that better than the public sector? Or do you still run into the same thing sometimes?
It's different. The more experience you have at this,
Right.
the more you get that what you used to do is not working,
Okay,
and
good.
it fails.
Yeah.
Right. So our message around machine learning and letting the software figure it out becomes much more relevant when you've been doing this a long time, or you have massive amounts of high-profile cases and things like that you've got to figure out.
So Dave Grado, if you're watching, you should be, because you're going to Palm Springs next week. This is you solving the homicides at LAPD. God damn it, this thing doesn't work. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's getting you on the phone to call technical support saying, I know the words in here. I know the guy did it. I can't find it. I'm giving this back and throwing it away. That's how frustrating people would be doing those type of searches. And we talked about the case I did at Fox, where I was searching for phone numbers on our phone switch against all the phone numbers in the recycler. It was a stolen product, and we matched it. But, the first time I did it, second time I did it, and I didn't get a match, I was frustrated, because I knew somebody had called. I just didn't have enough data in the
That's right.
data set. Yeah, but once I got it, so what I probably would have done with your software is pulled up all the patterns. And what I would have found, which I'm glad I didn't, because I would have had more investigations, I would have found some guys calling a porn site, some guys calling a gambling site, and I would have had 5 other investigations with your software, literally, right?
That's
Because
right.
it's going to learn that every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, 5 calls go out to this one number, right? And I was just looking for one needle in a haystack, Let's talk about pricing. No quotes, but I mean, is this subscription based? You buy the software one time, and then you get support, and that costs extra. How do you monetize it?
Sure. The software is really based on a license model. It's an annual instance fee, if you will.
Okay.
So let's say I have a US-based company, and I'm based out of New York City, or my data center's in New York. We would position the software to be installed behind their firewall on an annual subscription basis. We work with document counts or record counts. So this is unstructured text, remember? So we're not dealing with rows and columns in a nice, tidy database. We're dealing with kind of the messy side of email communication, where people very seldom even use, proper grammar, or you're on a trading room floor and there's all kinds of acronyms flying. There's no way to predict what
you're going to
is going to be said. So the pricing model really works on a capacity model on record volume or document volume.
Okay.
So as you install the software worldwide, so now I had success in the US, but I need to get a software installed in the UK or maybe in Frankfurt, you would buy multiple instances of the software all, again, on an annual spend.
And if your particular set of servers doesn't generate a whole bunch of data, because, I don't know, it just doesn't, then you're paying less. Sliding scale sort of thing. And I suppose if you have 100 billion sets and terabytes of things, you can afford to pay more for the software because you're that big a company. That's the idea.
And the other side of that is, huge corporations, banks, for an example.
Yeah.
Compliance is a big problem.
Oh, huge, yeah.
There's a lot of fraud in the world, and once you get caught, there's a lot of compliance problems that have to prove out what you're doing. So there's nothing more costly than a $1 billion fine, right? So to be able to circumvent that and to ensure that doesn't happen again becomes a very solid
small to medium
case.
company, it's completely doable to use your software because
Absolutely.
I'm not grinding a billion things a day. I'm just checking things once in a while, and that's it. This is really fascinating stuff. How long have you been around? I forgot to ask you.
The company's about 10 years old.
Oh, 10 years.
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody's ringing. Oh, well.
We've been building machine learning software for longer than that, actually, because it actually started with a company previous. This your wife?
It's always unfortunate when Washington, D.C. it's ISIS calling. They always call from Washington, D.C. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Live TV, that's whatever. They wait for you to fail. That's
Sure.
That's why they do
That's
it.
the way it works.
So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, the thing I also wanted to point out is, in the e-discovery world or in the investigation ecosystem, right, we work with a lot of different software. One of the reasons we mentioned 10-year-old company, we've been building analytics software for a very long time.
That is a long time in
this
this
space.
space.
It's all we do.
Yeah.
It's all we do. We have a single focus on analytics. And so there's a lot of companies that we work with. Guidance Software is one of them, right? They offer analytics.
Yeah.
K-Cura and Relativity offers analytics. We're a different breed of analytics, if you will. So it's not kind of a check-the-box analytics approach. It really depends on the use case and what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Most clients using our software have tried other platforms and other things, and we work well with all of these other platforms in this ecosystem. So it works out well.
Brilliant. Dean from brainspace.com. Thanks again coming on Security Guy TV.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, thanks.
All right.
We're out.